Some of you may have heard of the tragic and unsettling story and demise of Timothy Treadwell, the grizzly bear enthusiast. And those of you who know about this story probably know from the great film Grizzly Man, which cuts together a load of footage filmed by Mr. Treadwell, documenting his love of grizzly bears, following them round, almost living with them, and ultimately meeting a grisly end, if you'd excuse the pun. No custom script today, ladies and gentlemen. I'm mainly going to be citing an article from allthat'sinteresting.com, a piece written by Katie Serena, and I'll link this in the description. But off the bat, this is something I wanted to talk about here on Storyzilla, because it's a wild story. I did watch the film Grizzly Man many years ago, but recognize many people won't have watched that film and don't know about this story, so I see an opportunity here to share the dark tale of Timothy Treadwell. So, Katie Serena writes the following. On October 5th, 2003, Timothy Treadwell and his girlfriend Amie were mauled to death by a grizzly bear, and the whole attack was caught on tape. Ever since humans emerged as the dominant species, separated from animals by a few short links in the evolutionary chain, they've been trying to prove that they aren't all that different, that the difference between man and beast is only appearance, and that deep down, we are all really animals. In a world of animal anthropomorphism, there have been those who have blurred the line between man and beast, and ended up serving as a cautionary tale. Roy Horn and Montcor, the white tiger who mauled him on stage. Bruno Zender, who froze to death while living amongst the penguins in Antarctica. Steve Irwin, killed by a stingray as he was filming them for a documentary. However, none quite measure up to the impact made by the death of Timothy Treadwell, who lived and died amongst the wild grizzly bears of Alaska. Known as the, quote, Grizzly Man, Timothy Treadwell was, above all else, a bear enthusiast. His passion for the creatures led him to a passion for environmentalism and documentary filmmaking, the subject of which was the grizzly bears of Katmai National Park, Alaska. Beginning in the late 1980s, Treadwell began summering in Alaska. For 13 summers in a row, he would camp alongside the Katmai coast, an area of Alaska well known for its large grizzly bear population. Yeesh, not me, man. During the early part of the summers, he would stay on the, quote, Big Green, a grassy area on Hallow Bay. Later, he'd move south to Kaflia Bay, an area with thick brush. The Big Green was good for sighting bears as the grass was low and the visibility was clear. Treadwell called it the, quote, Grizzly Sanctuary, since it was where they came to rest and mosey around the coast. The Kaflia Bay area, thicker and more densely wooded, was better for getting in close contact with the bears, referred to as the, quote, Grizzly Maze. The area was full of intersecting grizzly trails and was much easier to hide in. While camping, Treadwell would get up close and personal with the bears and film all kinds of interactions with them on his camera. Some of the videos even showed him touching the bears and playing with the cubs, while the Grizzly Man claimed he was always careful to develop a sense of trust and mutual respect. There were many who thought otherwise. Yeah, I just want to pause here and give you my thoughts on this. I just wouldn't mess with grizzly bears. I thought this while watching the film Grizzly Man. Like, despite how much of a connection you think you've cultivated with grizzly bears, they're ultimately grizzly bears. What do they teach you? Like, if it's a black bear, you can make yourself big and shout and scare it away. But if it's a grizzly bear, you're screwed. Anyway, back to the article. Over his 13 summers, Timothy Treadwell made quite a name for himself. Park rangers and the National Park Service warned Treadwell that his relationship with the bears would inevitably turn deadly. Not only were the bears enormous, weighing up to 1,000 pounds, and standing taller than a man when they're up on their hind legs, they felt he was interfering with the natural order of the parks. In 1998, they issued him a citation for carrying food in a tent, a known attractant of bears, along with several other infractions for illegal camping practices. They even imposed a new rule due to his inability to follow their other ones, known as the Treadwell rule. It states that all campers must move their camps at least 1 mile every 5 days in order to keep bears from getting too comfortable with humans. Eesh. However, despite the warnings, Treadwell continued to camp and interact with the bears within several years, his insistence on maintaining close contact with them would lead to his gruesome and horrifying downfall. In October of 2003, the bear enthusiast and his girlfriend Amie Huguenard were in Katmai National Park near Treadwell's old stomping grounds in the quote Grizzly Maze. Though it was part of the time when he usually packs up for the season, he had decided to extend his stay to locate a favourite female bear of his. Around this time, friends and family say he had withdrawn from the modern world, and even Treadwell admitted he felt more comfortable in nature with the bears than he ever did with humans. He was getting increasingly reckless. He knew that October was when bears were storing up food for the winter, gaining fat for hibernation, and increasing aggression, yet he still camped out in their paths. This was especially dangerous as park visitors are prohibited from bringing guns, and Treadwell was not carrying bear repellent spray. That doesn't sound pretty intelligent to me, guys. On the afternoon of October the 5th, Treadwell and his girlfriend checked in with a colleague in Malibu by satellite phone. Then, just 24 hours later, on October the 6th, 2003, both campers were discovered dead, torn apart by a bear. Timothy and Amie's remains were discovered by their air taxi pilot, who had arrived at their campsite to come and pick them up. At first, the campsite seemed abandoned. Then, the pilot noticed the bear stalking the area as if guarding his prey. The air taxi pilot quickly alerted the park rangers, who arrived, searched the area. They found the couple's remains quickly. Treadwell's mangled head, part of his spine, his right forearm, and his hand were recovered a short distance from the camp. His wristwatch was still attached to his arm and still ticking. Amie's remains were found partially buried under a mound of twigs and dirt next to the torn tents. The park rangers were forced to kill the bear as it attempted to attack them as they recovered the remains. A necropsy of the larger bear revealed the human body parts in its abdomen, confirming the rangers' fears. Timothy Treadwell and his girlfriend had been eaten by his beloved bears. In the park's 85-year history, this was the first known bear-inflicted death. Wow. However, the most horrifying part of this scene wasn't discovered until after the bodies had been moved. As the bodies were taken into the morgue, the rangers searched the couple's tents and belongings. Inside of one of the torn tents was a video camera with a 6-minute tape inside. At first, it appeared that the tape was blank and there was no video. However, the tape was not blank, though the video was dark, and this was a result of the camera being in the bag and having the lens cap on. The audio was crystal clear for 6 agonizing minutes. The camera captured the end of Amie and Timothy's lives as it recorded the sounds of their screams as a bear ripped them apart. Ugh. The audio suggests that the video was turned on moments before the attack and that Treadwell was attacked while Amie attempted to fend the bear off. The audio ends with Amie's horrifying screams as she is killed. The audio cut off after about 6 minutes when the tape ran out, but those 6 minutes were traumatizing enough. After the rangers collected it, they refused to share it with anyone, keeping it away from the public despite several filmmakers' attempts to get their hands on it. According to those who have heard it, it leaves a understandably harrowing impression. After Timothy Treadwell's death, the park rangers made it clear that while this was a rare incident, it serves as a reminder that bears are deadly animals. So there ends the article, guys, and yes, Timothy Treadwell assuming he had this connection, this understanding with the bears, but really, they were grizzly bears. And push comes to shove, in the right season, they'll eat you, man. It's a tragic story, really, because if you watch the film Grizzly Man, his girlfriend Amie wasn't too into bears. He sort of brought her into that life. They were in the tent together when he told her to put the camera on because he heard the bear outside, to which Timothy goes out to interact with it. He then begins to be attacked and calls for her aid, if memory serves. She goes out, I believe she hits the bear with like a pan or something. After it eats Timothy, she stands there screaming, and I believe that's actually what initiates the bear to come and eat her as well. I think it's her shock, her reaction, which essentially made the bear return and also consume her. A cautionary tale, but maybe you don't need to be told to not go and mess with grizzly bears. His obsession was profound though. Again, to reference the documentary Grizzly Man, there's a period where he's filming himself, and by the way, Often he was filming himself, that's why the filmmakers had enough footage to make a film here. A bear had just pooped outside. There's a clip where Timothy's getting incredibly excited because he finds some bear poop, and he gets close to it. I believe he even touches it because it's still warm, which obviously is gross. But this is an indication of the man's obsession with grizzly bears. It was his life's purpose to get close with them, to interact with them, and ultimately he just had the belief, I guess, that he was invincible when it came to grizzly bears. Anyway, it's a wild story. Check out the cited article in the top of the description. I recommend you go watch Grizzly Man, and keep it locked to this YouTube channel, Storyzilla, for more tales that I find interesting. So thank you for liking, and thank you for subscribing to this channel. Take care.